powerful. And I'm a big proponent in people keeping a dream diary and writing down the dreams that they have during this traumatic phase. But this is very important. Do not apply meanings on the dreams right there and then. Just get the dream out of your head, write it on a page, and then do not try and impose a sort of a dream analysis process on it. Just let it happen. And then eventually, over the course of time, the underlying meaning of these dreams will manifest. And this is also part of your healing. Creativity and keeping yourself busy is a great thing as well. If you're anyway artistically inclined, you just get it out that way. Paint pictures, do poetry, journaling is fantastic as well. That's a great thing. You know, I'm a big believer in journaling and things like that. And you know, don't immediately go looking for another relationship. That can be a big mistake, especially having casual sex and one night stands. That will only make you feel worse. It will not help at all. It's best just to kind of detox for a while, get out of the relationship dynamic, and avoid anything that reminds you of them. And you will get, I mean, although it truly is the dark night of the soul, and people do go through hell, and to go through an experience that would probably be the most profound, because what's happened is the psychopath has switched off the persona that they used to work you with. So what you're really doing is you're mourning a dead person, but the horror and the trauma is compounded by the fact that you're seeing this person alive. So it's almost like you're seeing a zombie or something, and that just really screws people's heads up. So that's what really causes the damage. So that's why no contact is so important. And then the other things I mentioned, and then just you have to be patient, and eventually it will go, and you'll be normal again. But it takes, like any post-traumatic stress, cognitive therapy seems to be quite useful as well. The stuff that they use on returning troops, you know, like the certain techniques that they use in that seem to help people who've been through these traumas as well. But the best one is to find, and then also the internet support groups, that the good ones, I've listed them in the back of my books and everything, that will have people there. And it's so important. The first big healing thing is realizing what you were dealing with, and the second one is then realizing that you're not the only person in the world who dealt with it. And then you're on the path to recovery.
That's terrific advice. So it sounds like it's not something to really take personally once you work through all those stages, because you're just simply a target and they'll move on to another one.
Oh, you mean no more than if they changed the batteries in a Walkman. You know,
right.
You're just like so that's another thing. Yeah, that's a very good point, and I'm glad you brought that up. It's just business with them. Don't believe that you were the person that they replaced you with. They'll get it next time. They'll be you in a couple of months or a couple of years.
Yeah, that would be hard to watch. Wow. Okay, thank you. And the next question is from Green Meadow.
Hi there. I have a question about, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question about the children of psychopaths. Children of people with personality disorders are often taught distorted views of reality. For example, I know 2 women with severely narcissistic mothers who were taught that if they were not selfless, that they were selfish. So later in life, they felt guilty if they put any energy into self-care. They had to learn that taking care of themselves was not selfish. What are some of the common distortions of reality that children of psychopaths experience? And how can those distortions be challenged to support a more realistic perspective?
Yeah, it's a horror story, this, and it's something that we have to deal with. If you grow up in a home with a psychopath and your parent's a psychopath, but the child is not and the children are not, the consequences for those children can be terrible. They will have a distorted view of reality. They will tend to, like, because psychopaths are highly narcissistic and they're constantly praising themselves, the children of psychopaths will often think that's normal behavior. And then they will go out into the world behaving like their crazy psychopathic parent. And then they'll go into school and they'll say things like, I'm really great. And then suddenly they'll be brought down by another kid. They'll be brought down to size in a very demeaning and bad way. And the child will not understand why, because they'll think, well, my pop does this. Isn't that how people behave? So this is why if you're married to a psychopath and you have children, you've got to get a divorce and try and go through every means possible to get those children away from that psychopath, because you do not want them growing up emulating the behavior. some people, and a lot of people who are children of psychopaths, well, they just seem to know when they're growing up that something isn't right. I hear that all the time. They would say things to me like, when I was 14, I just looked at him one day and I realized he wasn't like other fathers. You know, my friends' fathers, there was something odd about him. And that's quite common. And those children tend to be the rebellious ones in a healthy way. They become goths or, you know, punk rockers or metalheads or whatever. They become, you know, they join a sort of counterculture kind of thing, and that's how they deal with it. And they usually grow up to be like pretty cool people when they process the experience through this counterculture kind of scene, whether it's the goths or whatever they've joined. And that's a good one, that one. And then others are guilted to take care of the parents because, see, a psychopath sees their own children as a possession, but it's also weird as well. They also see their own children as a rivalry. So the eldest daughter of a psychopathic mother will be seen as a rival by the psychopathic mother, and the eldest son of the psychopathic male will be seen as a sort of challenge to his, like, it's almost like his leadership of the tribe, because they're more like animals than people. They think that way. And so they will often, you know, a lot of bullying will go on. A lot of the kid will be told they're useless constantly, and this is where I believe a lot of teen suicide is caused by this. That the parent tells them they're useless and they're just worthless human beings. You'll never be a great man like me, and that kind of thing. And the child grows up to believe it. The child is. I've known beautiful girls whose their mother was a psychopath, and the mothers used to tell them they were ugly because the psychopathic mother saw her beautiful daughter as a threat. She's better looking than me, and that's literally how they think. So, yeah, this is an issue we have to deal with. Bullying in school is also what happens. A lot of these kids who bully in school, some of them are psychopaths, but other ones have just learned that from their psychopathic parents, and it's almost like an avalanche of pathology that goes on. Most of these people will be fine in the end, but the ones who are not are the ones who feel bad about hating their parent and are guilted into taking care of them for the rest of their lives, and they're the ones that you really need to protect. You know, the psychopathic parent will just use them as an enabler, you know, to take care of them in their old age and stuff like that. And so that's the thing with those children of psychopaths is, again, trying to educate them when they're teens, and then they'll realize what's going on. They'll break away.
Yeah. I used to work in a nursing home, and there was various parents where the kids never ever came. And when you got to know that person, they earned it.
Oh yeah, a lot of this like parental neglect thing comes from that. It's never spoken about, but you know, behavior has consequences. But psychopaths never learn that. And I've heard that story from other people who worked in nursing homes. And at first you'd say, it's so sad that children, but then you find that this elderly person is stealing the other patient's money and stuff.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, once a psychopath, always a psychopath. They're right until the last breath of their life. They're just as predatory as when they were teenagers.
Yeah, and it's just traumatic for the family member to have to write off someone.
Oh yeah, and then they have to live with comments from other people saying things like, "Oh, you left your parents. You didn't care about them." You know, and these people are then put in a position to defend their own humanity, and the reason why they're not with these people anymore is because of their humanity.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Green Meadow. And next we have a question from Odinson.
Hi, this is actually on behalf of Lua from Colorado. Your recommendation that the victim of a psychopath should follow the rule of no contact ever again makes sense, considering that nothing good can come of any further contact. But sometimes it's impossible to sever relationships 100%. For instance, if two people have children in common, it would be very difficult to deny visiting rights. There could be many other reasons that it is impossible to maintain no contact. In such a case, what would your recommendation for how the parent should deal with the psychopath?
Yeah, very good. Custody, sharing child custody with a psychopath, and you have to see them every so often. What you do is Just some very good tips here would be, first one, try not to make eye contact with them. If you're talking to them, business. If you go over there, you'd say, I'll collect the kids at 3. You get over there, you collect them at 3. I'm here for the kids. Where are they? Where's their coats? You get them and you leave. The psychopath tries to start a conversation about small talk. You do not engage. You only talk business. When you're talking to the psychopath, you don't make, if you can help it, direct eye contact, because they will drill those things in. They'll deliberately, they're almost like they're harvesting energy from you. They will deliberately annoy you and intimidate you. You do not look at them. You look past them when you're talking to them. And you are very business. You do not shout and scream. You do not lose your temper in front of the kids. The psychopathic parent will be smear campaigning you against your own kids. This will all be resolved in time. You just explain to the kids that daddy or mommy is not that I love you and I'm taking care of you, and we're always going to be together. And when they say these bad things about me, it's because he's hurt. You say something like that. You don't smear campaign back. The kids will eventually figure out in time who the proper parent is. And they'll also get bored with the psychopath constantly doing this. If you're with them and they try to start anything like wind you up by, insulting you or making fun of you, or even fighting and screaming at you, you tell them you have your mobile phone video camera ready and you will record anything they do and it will be used in court. If I have to use it in court. It's almost like you get them to behave themselves. You force them to behave themselves. You make no accommodations in terms of friendliness, in terms of anything. If they don't do as they're told, you write down everything. If they have to collect the kids a certain time, you write down everything, because you eventually may be able to use this evidence in court and to get full custody. So that's the golden rule. Do not make eye contact. Be all business around them, and do not lose your temper and scream and shout. And make sure the psychopath knows that on no level do they have any emotional or psychological control over you. And that's the way you deal with them. 2 things will happen. They will, because they can't get anywhere with you, they'll probably lose interest, and you'll probably end up getting full custody anyway. They'll get married again, and they'll get a new family and lose interest in those kids. And that's the best way to deal with it. Again, if you have to deal with them in the workplace, I gave that information earlier on about how to deal with them there. And so you can deal with them with no contact, but it's a compromise, and it's not the best solution. But in the case of children, it's the only way you're going to be able to get around it is to compromise and to do these things. But again, you're going to be all business, and you'll find your confidence growing as you're doing this. And it'll annoy the psychopath, but he knows that, and she knows there'll be nothing they can do about it.
I just wanted to say that I really loved your insight in previous interviews about not being able to out-psychopath a psychopath.
No, you never will. They've had a whole lifetime of every kind of devious tactic, manipulation, and gamesmanship. And like I said, it'd be like someone with a pea shooter trying to take down an Apache gunship. They operate on a level that we can't even comprehend. You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Odinson. And Herm has the next question.